Hello Year 2, it's Mrs McNulty for Comprehension today for the Year 2 Comprehension book. Okay, it is Wednesday, the 3rd of February. We are going to look at some tricky words in the text. We are going to have a little chance at doing some practice questions before we get going with answering the questions in the book. Okay, so for today, can I answer questions on a non-fiction text is our learning question. So another non-fiction text, and we know now that non-fiction texts are texts where we have information, we have facts, and they're written about real things. They're not made up, they're not stories. So another text that is non-fiction, information again today. We are going to be mostly looking at retrieval questions with maybe a little bit of inference. Remember, inference is where we use the clues, we use what we know, and we don't have to exactly find the answer. We have to think about it a little bit using what we know. Okay, so let's have a little see then at what our text is about today. We've seen that word before in science in Year 2, haven't we? That word says habitats. So you're grown up what you know a habitat is, if you can remember from our science lessons. What do we mean by habitat? Let's have a check. A habitat then is a place where an animal lives. So there's lots of different habitats, lots of different places where animals live, and our text is all about that today. So it's the next text in the book, and it is the text on page 22. Okay, it's called habitats. Okay, so it's information. You might want to pause the video now and have a little chat with your grown-up to make some predictions about our text. What sorts of things might we find out about in the text? What kind of information might we learn? What kind of facts? What kind of animals do you think we might be talking about if we're thinking about habitats? So maybe if you would like to pause the video, you might want to make a little prediction. Now you know our text is called habitats. Okay, that could be your first challenge for the day to predict. I'm going to think about some tricky words then now. Some tricky words that will help us when we are reading. Okay, some words that might be tricky for us. Now we have got some words where we've got the soft C and the soft G, which we have had a few times now. Okay, so the top words here have got the soft C sound. So the C making a S sound. So this one is place. And this one, I bet you can tell me what this one would be. That one is city, isn't it? Okay. And in the bottom three, we've got words where the G is making a J sound. Okay, we've got U there. Huge. Then we've got, I'm going to cross a little bit so you can see. Then we've got large. Largest. This one's a really funny spelling. This one is the name of a kind of animal. It's the name of a bird, and it is pigeons. It's pigeons. So we've got the soft G making the J sound. Pigeons. It's got a really funny E and O in the middle. It's the word pigeons, that one. So you might want to go and see where you can spot those in the text. Okay, place, city, huge, largest, and pigeons. Okay, got some other words that are tricky words. Okay, other words that are tricky words for today. So this one is tricky word. My children in phonics, we've had this one recently. This one is the word water. W-O-T. So it's this part that's tricky. Letter A is making the O sound. We've got in this one the letter I making the I sound. So this one isn't k-ins. What do you think it would be? Not k-ins, it would be k-ins. Kinds. So different kinds of creatures, different kinds of habitats. All right, I'll help you out with this one. So we've got AR in the middle. What sound does AR normally make, you two? Normally makes an R sound, doesn't it? But this is the word warm. So this time it's making an O sound. Warm. Okay, so in our text it's going to be talking about some habitats that are warm places. Okay, we've got this word here, which is the word built. Built. So it's as if that U is a silent letter joined onto the I to make built, like we've built something, the past tense of building. Okay. Now, we know that EAR normally makes ear, and then last week and in our other text, we've talked about how EAR can also make an air sound. And in this word, it doesn't make either of those those sounds because this is the word learnt. Learnt. Okay, so it can make another sound in this word, which is why it is tricky. We've just got a couple of others which are specific to the topic and the text now. You know what this word says here too? This word is world, isn't it? So we've got O and O making an sound. World. This one again, this is another kind of geography word that we will have talked about in geography, which is specific to this text because lots of times when you have a non-fiction text, there is lots of subject-specific vocabulary. So because we're thinking about habitats and places, we're thinking about the world, and this is another subject word like that. This is the word oceans. Oceans. Very tricky spelling that one, oceans. And then we've got an animal with L-E making an L sound. So this animal is turtles. Turtles. Okay, lots of tricky words. Now I want to scan through the text, see where you can spot those so that when you come across them, you know all about what they say. Okay, what we're going to do then before we think about the next one, we're just going to think about the meaning of one of our tricky words. Now, you're going to come across the word today, which is equator. 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 And I've shown you on my picture here. I might even make my picture a little bit larger so that you can see. Okay, so the equator is an imaginary line that goes around the middle of the world, separating the northern part of the world from the southern part of the world. So when you hear about the equator in the text, you will know what that is. It's an imaginary line that goes around the centre of the world, the centre of our globe. Okay, so the equator. We're going to look at some practice questions, but first you will need to have a little read of the text. Okay, so the text is called Habitats. It's on page 22. There's an introduction. So normally when you have a non-fiction text, it gives you a little paragraph, a couple of lines at the top to tell you what the text is going to be about. And just like our sports one from yesterday, it is split in two sections, which we call paragraphs. And we often have this, and we've done this when we've written our own non-fiction text. Okay, so the paragraphs have subheadings to tell you what's in each paragraph. Okay, and it breaks the text up to make it easier to read. And it also makes it easier to find the answers because we will know which paragraph we will need to be looking in for the answer. So you've got the title, the introduction paragraph, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs of different habitats. Okay, so give them a read. Read a couple of times, remembering the strategies that we've talked about using if you come across an unfamiliar word that's not one we've talked about. And then we're going to go over some of those practice questions. So give the video a pause and come back when you're ready for the questions. Okay? I'm going to just put my text under the visualizer so that we can use it to spot some answers in our practice questions. Okay, I'll put it there for now, and then we can always zoom in on it when we know which paragraph we need, can't we? So as always, I've chosen some practice questions which are similar to the kinds of practice questions that you might have in your booklet for today. First one then says, let's have a little look. We've got tricky word what at the start with A making the ot sound. What is the biggest? What is the biggest? That was one of our tricky words. What is the biggest ocean in the world? Okay, which key word do you think I'm going to be looking for in the text? If I want to know what is the biggest ocean in the world, what have I got to be looking for to find that answer? I've got to retrieve that answer. So I've got to look for, I need to find where it says the word ocean, and hopefully it will say the word biggest or something similar to that. So back to our text. Now, what I don't know then is, what I do know is which paragraph I'm going to need to go to, isn't it? So I do know which paragraph to look for, which is handy with having the subheading. So I'm going to zoom in now on my board on the ocean one, and I need to look for if it tells me the biggest one. Okay, look for the biggest one. Your pencil or your pen or highlighter or something ready. Now have a look at ocean here so I can see, and I'm going to skim to see if it says anything about the biggest. But remember, it's only a small paragraph, so you could always reread the whole paragraph again. Oh, and see the word biggest here. Biggest ocean in the world. So I'm going to read that sentence. It starts here after the next full stop before it. The Pacific Ocean is the biggest ocean in the world. Okay, so I'm going to put that into a sentence. The Pacific Ocean. You will see that lots of our words today do have capital letters because we've got the names of lots of places which are proper nouns which need capital letters. And we also have lots of tricky spellings in some of those, but you are going to copy them down carefully. The Pacific Ocean is the biggest ocean in the world. It was a retrieval question. We've just retrieved the answer. The capital letter for Pacific because it's a proper noun. The Pacific, and again, capital letter for ocean because I'm talking about a specific ocean. Okay, I didn't need a capital letter here for ocean because I was just talking about generally oceans, which is the biggest, not a specific one. And because I'm now talking about a specific ocean with a specific name, it's a proper noun with a capital letter. So the Pacific Ocean is the, and I can just copy the words from the question. Is the biggest ocean in the world? Biggest ocean in the world. It's always a good idea to put it into a sentence with a capital letter and a full stop. The Pacific Ocean is the biggest ocean in the world. So next one. Oh, next one. Why do you think, lots of animals live in tropical rain Why do you think lots of animals live in tropical rainforest? Now, this question then starts with why, doesn't it? So we're going to have to give a reason. We're going to have to give a reason for this one using something it tells us in the text. So back to the text, and I'm going to look for the section, the paragraph that tells me it's about tropical rainforest. So we've got that subheading, haven't we? Tropical rainforest. There we go. So I'm going to need to read through. So I want you to pause and read through that section again. And we're looking for something that it tells us which would make it a good place for animals to live? Why do you think lots of animals live in tropical rainforests? There must be something it tells us that tells us it's a good place for animals to live. So have a little look. You might want to pause and read that part again. Okay. Because there isn't really, apart from tropical rainforest, there isn't really a specific keyword to search for in that one, because we've got to find out what it says in the whole paragraph to then decide why that's what we think. Okay, have a little read through then. I'm going to highlight some things that I might be important. Okay, right, I've highlighted some bits. Let's see what I've highlighted. So I've highlighted that they are really hot. They also get a lot of rain, and that rainforest trees are very tall. And I thought I could use one of those bits of information in my answer. Okay, so I thought I could use probably a sentence for each of those. Why do you think lots of animals live in tropical rainforests? I think lots of animals live in tropical rainforests because if there are very tall trees, the trees can provide a home for lots of different animals, can't they? And it does say huge numbers of insects, birds, and other animals live in tropical rainforest habitats. Also, it's a nice warm place to live. Lots of animals need warm places to live, and they also get a lot of rain, so there would be plenty of water for the animals to drink. So there would be a few different answers you could maybe put for that one. Okay, that one was a why one where we had to use what we knew to infer, to put into a reason why. It doesn't necessarily have the answer for us to retrieve. We have to use what we know, okay, for that one. So I think next one then. Give one difference between an urban habitat and a rainforest. Give one difference between an urban habitat and a rainforest. Well, I've just looked at rainforests, haven't I? So now I've looked at rainforests. I'm now going to look at urban habitats, and I'm going to choose one thing that is different about them. Okay, let's find the urban part then. The urban part is the last bit, isn't it? Here we go. Okay, so an urban area has been built on by humans. Lots of people live in urban habitats. So I think I've got a couple there. So a difference between rainforests and urban habitats is, well, rainforests haven't been built on by humans, have they? Rainforests are natural and they've grown, okay? And also, lots of people live in urban habitats. Well, it didn't tell me lots of people live in rainforests, so that might be my difference. So I'm going to say, my best pen for writing, I'm going to say a little bit that rainforests have not been built by humans. Rainforests have not been built. I could copy that word from the text, couldn't I? Because it's a tricky word to spell. Rainforests have not been built by humans. Okay, because that is one thing that was different that it told us between each habitat. Okay, well, we go on to what our challenge is then. Let's look at our specific questions for today. Okay, and again, there are seven questions for today. The first one then is a why question. Why do you think it is difficult for animals to live in desert habitats. So we're going to look in the desert habitats part for that one, aren't we? We're going to see what it tells us, but we can't just pick something out. We've got to see what it tells us and then think about whether it would be difficult for animals to live there. So we've got to use what we know a bit for that one. Not just find an answer, pick it out, copy it down. You've got to give that one a little bit of thought. What does it tell us about deserts? What do we know about animals? And why might what we find out about deserts make it difficult for animals to live there? Number 2 is a nice, easy retrieval one. What is the biggest tropical rainforest in the world? We did a very similar one to that. Remember to use your capital letters for the name of the rainforest and copy the spelling carefully. Give one difference between a desert and a rainforest. Well, we did a rainforest and an urban habitat. You've now got to do a difference between a desert and a rainforest. Okay. What is an ocean? Now, I bet you know what an ocean is, but instead of putting it into a sentence yourself, go and look what it tells us in the ocean paragraph, because that would be a retrieval question. The answer would be there for you to just copy down. So don't make it more difficult by trying to come up with your own answer and wording it in your own way, because the answer will be there for you to retrieve. Okay. Number 5, name 2 animals that live in an ocean habitat. Same paragraph, you're just retrieving the names of animals. Question 6, what type of habitat is the City of London? Okay, now I think the key word for that one is the word city. Okay, don't think it's got the word London in our text, but it might have the word city. And then question 7, can you think of another wild animal that has learned to live in an urban habitat? So it does say another wild animal. Read what it tells us about urban habitats again. See which animals it's already listed and see if you can think of another. So that one, again, we have to give it a little bit of thought using what we know. The answer won't be there for us to pull out. Okay, so lots of text, lots of questions again today. If you are thinking about an extra challenge, here is what you can do. Can you draw and label one type of habitat? So choose one of the ones from the paragraphs. Can you draw and can you label it? So can you draw the animals that live there and label them? Can you draw anything else that might be specific to that habitat? Or if you want to do, rather than more of a drawing activity, can you choose one animal and write about its habitat? So you might want to choose an animal that hasn't been mentioned in the text. You might want to research a little bit about where that animal lives. Can you write a little bit about its habitat and why that is a good habitat for your animal that you have chosen? Okay, we did a little bit of that in school, didn't we? I know we went to look at Spike and we thought about where Spike lived and why that was a good place for Spike to live. So maybe you could do the same with an animal that you choose. Okay, we look forward to seeing how well you do. Your answers from your comprehension questions have been blowing us away. Me and Mrs. Wood have been so impressed with you, with your answers in the Year 2 booklet, so keep it up. You're doing a great job. Well done. Keep it up and we'll see you again for Thursday to learning. Well done, you two. Bye-bye.